What is going on, nerds of wrestling, and welcome to today's episode of What's Up Wrestler, a podcast by nerds of wrestling. It is I, your host, Justin Del Rio, and my guest at this very time is Amy Crimson. She comes from the Streets of Malton. I just botched that name. I am so sorry. Amy, what is going on? How are
What's up,
you?
Francisco? I'm good. It's okay. It's okay.
I'm so sorry. So I have to ask Mo, what does the Streets of Malton mean? I still feel bad that I botched that, but
It's okay.
it's all good.
So it's actually a funny story because lots of people ask because in Canada there's Mississauga, Ontario, but it's a small town in Mississauga, Ontario called Malton. And for those who don't know, I was trained by Anthony Corelli, aka Santino Marella. And a funny story was that in Malton we have some type of slang. So it's kind of like patois, kind of like Jamaican slang, kind of like Jamaican and English kind of thing that we talk like in our town. So I was speaking to a girl that's from Malton as well, and Anthony thought it was so cool, and he thought we were gangster kind of thing. So he's like, "Oh my God, you're gangster! You should say you're from the streets of Malton," and then it just clicks. So that's why I go by the streets of Malton.
Being trained by a former WWE superstar, former Intercontinental Champion Santino Marella must have been pretty cool. Growing up watching wrestling, were you a fan of Santino Marella?
Yes. So when I believe 8 years old is when I started watching it. And it was literally like his prime. Like he just started, I believe it was like 2007 when he debuted.
Yeah, I'm
And,
not there.
and I actually got to meet him prior to training. So I believe he used to grow up in Mississauga, Ontario, Canada. And I think one of his family friends knew him from like one of the elementary schools I went to. So it was at a fun fair, like at our school. So I met Anthony Santino Marella at the fair, and I told him as like a 9 or 10 year old, I'm like, I want to do this at like professional wrestling.
Right.
So he's like, okay, go to a school, and then you could become a professional wrestler when you're old enough. So flash forward, I think 2016, he opened up Battle Arts Academy. Mind you, I was still too young by 2016. So I think I was just starting, like just graduating high school. So I wasn't old enough. I was like 17. So I turned 19, and then I decided to go to Battle Arts Academy to train with Anthony.
So he's really not from Italy.
No, he is actually from
Okay.
Italy.
Okay. I was like, wait. I was gonna be like, oh my god, wait, my whole life is a lie. I thought he was
No.
Italian.
He's Italian. It's just
Okay.
his descent is Italian. He just grew up in Canada.
Got it. Got it. Now, did you? I remember like it was yesterday watching Monday Night Raw when it was in Italy, and Vince McMahon came out and was like, "Hey, anybody in here want to wrestle Umaga?" And I remember this guy, Santino Marella, came out, and I'm like, What is this? Like, what is happening right now?" And Amy, I was marking out because I was like, "Yo, this fan just beat Umaga and Bobby Lashley at the time. He was my favorite wrestler."
Yeah,
Help! I thought that was the coolest thing.
yeah.
Uh, they're just a little sidetrack right there. Growing up, who did you watch? Who were you really into as a fan?
So growing up, I'm a 98 baby kid. So I grew up, so I started watching in like, I believe 2007. So like I watched John Cena, Rey Mysterio, Edge. So those were my favorites growing up. And then I started wrestling, so I got more into it. And I started loving Eddie Guerrero stuff. So like Eddie Guerrero is like one of my favorites to look up to, kind of thing.
I mean, 2007 was a common year though for a lot of people in their 20s. I'm 26, and I started watching wrestling in 05, 06.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was the best time for wrestling, other than the Attitude Era. But us 90s babies who were grew up in 94 and you grew up in 98, we weren't old enough to know or comprehend what
Yeah.
was going on. So, our 12-year-old selves were like, oh my God, the ruthless aggression era, this is the coolest shit ever.
Yeah.
Uh, I remember just being such a big fan of John Cena and absolutely despising Edge. I hated Edge.
Yeah.
And you hated Edge too?
Yeah, he was like, I believe like the Vicky Guerrero angle was what made me hate him as a kid because I just didn't like them together, and like I never understood. But now looking back at it, like doing wrestling, like that storyline was gold. It was so gold.
100%. I think the same thing of his feud with Cena. I'm like, 12-year-old me, like I said, I hated Edge. But with the mindset growing up, like, 26-year-old me was like, oh my God, like, holy shit,
Yeah,
this is awesome. Like, what, in my opinion, a lot of people who are listening or anybody who's watching,
yeah.
they might disagree with me, but in my opinion, Edge is and was the greatest heel of all time. Nobody did a better job than Edge.
I
Uh,
think like maybe JBL, maybe like in his time, he was a pretty good heel.
He was good. All right. So JB on Edge. If you can name another great heel, who would it be?
Um, Now that you think of it, I think like it was JBL, and then there was Edge, and then possibly Randy Orton. Of all the Ruthless Aggression era, I like Randy Orton as a heel
Right.
better than a face because he was amazing as a heel.
I feel like he could do anything though. Like even now, like no matter what you tell Randy Orton to do, he'll do a great job of it. But I have to agree, Randy Orton is the better heel because that's what we grew up with. We grew up as Randy. That's all we saw of him as a bad guy.
Yeah,
Like like John Cena. Like, if John Cena was a bad guy, like in '06, and he was a good guy now, like no, we'll go no, he's better as a good guy. Like
yeah.
what are your thoughts on Roman Reigns?
So for the longest time when I was a fan, I didn't much like him. Because like I felt like it was like getting thrown down our throats kind of thing and like forced. But when I started wrestling, I realized that like he was like a really good athlete and like the character's there. It's not like it's not there. It's just I feel like he needed work, and then when they turned him heel, he just shined because like right now he's doing the best work of his whole career. Right.
100%. And I feel like a lot of people, including myself, I
Yeah.
hated Roman Reigns at the time. But now that he's a heel, I love it. And I work with kids for a living, and all of them 5 years ago was like, oh, I love Roman Reigns. And I'm like, why? Now
Yeah.
they're like, I hate Roman Reigns. I'm like, why? Why do you hate him?
Yeah.
Like, you love it or you hate him. What is going on?
Yeah.
But we could talk about Roman Reigns all day. We could talk about wrestling, this and that. Let's get to know more about Amy Crimson. But before we do, drop those plugs. Where can the nerds find you?
So you can find me on Instagram. So all of my plugs are basically Amy Crimson XOXO. If you guys want to check out my TikTok, my Twitter, my Instagram, it's Amy Crimson XOXO. If you guys want to check out some of my matches, it's at Amy Crimson. All you have to do is search up Amy Crimson Wrestling, and majority of my matches should pop up. And I have a Facebook page if you guys want to check it out. It's called Amy Crimson. So
There you go. But don't worry, nerds. I will drop those plugs again at the end. Amy Crimson, tell us more about you. How did Amy Crimson become Amy Crimson? What was your first? What was it like stepping into the ring for the first time training?
Okay. I was basically training for I believe 2 months. It was June of 2018 when I first started. At the time, there was not a lot of girls that were wrestling at the time, so we were short some girls. So I was only training for 2 months, and Santino Marella, Anthony. I'm gonna say Anthony, so because
That's
I'm
fine.
used to saying his name. So Anthony was basically saying, okay, I'm gonna put you in a practice match and see where you're at, and then he was gonna throw me into one of our pay-per-views at Battle Arts Academy, for Rising Stars. So I faced off versus a girl named Natalie Bramwell, and it was like a practice match in front of kids because it was at a kid's birthday party. And he liked it, and he just gave me like a white girl name, like just Amy, and there was no last name or nothing to it. So the kids loved it. They were cheering my name and everything. So he liked it. He put me on Summer Sizzle, and then the same night, I was basically his daughter Bianca Corelli was announcing at the time because I believe she just started wrestling or she was training, and she was doing the announcing, and she comes into the change room and she's like, Cassandra, we need a name. Like, you only have Amy. You need a last name. So we're like thinking it's like 10 minutes before my match is on. And she's like, okay, we need a last name. And we didn't have one. And then we were like thinking of names and everything. So I was wearing crimson lipstick. And then she's like, oh, Amy Crimson. And then that's how Amy Crimson came about. And then Anthony with the jokes and everything. Because at first I was a psycho character, believe it or not. I didn't have the hood character, didn't have the hat. I was just some crazy chick with a girl named Brooklyn. We were like and then Anthony just heard like how I was and how like I talk and like my character and everything, like outside the ring. And he's like, this will work. Like you're gangster. You know what? You should be a hood character. And at first I was like, it's not gonna work. And then so be it, it worked, and I gained the title, and people actually think I'm cool. And now Amy Crimson is from the Streets of Malton, and
I love that. But let's rewind back a little bit. How long did it take you to get into your first match? Like, how long was training? Going through training, did you have any doubts? What was it like?
So before my first match, I was training for 2 months. So I was basically training with a guy named Toy. He was really big at battle arts, and he actually created Battle Arts Academy in Japan. And I was lucky enough to train with him, which he trained Asuka. So before he left to Japan, I got a chance to train with him. So he was basically telling Anthony that I was ready for it, even though I didn't feel like I was ready for it.
Right.
So he basically gave Anthony the green light. Anthony told me, okay, step in the ring. We're going to do like a practice match kind of thing. And at first I was scared shitless. I never wrestled in front of a crowd. Let alone I never wrestled a full match before. I never had a finisher. I didn't have a character set in mind. So like I was scared, and it was scary. And we actually like wrestle monthly in front of crowds. So imagine not wrestling a match, mind you, not even knowing like how to put together a match at that.
Right.
So relying on your peers to like help you. So I was scared. And then on top of that, none of my family or friends knew I was wrestling because it was last minute. So I only got to wrestle in front of people I never knew. So
Oh.
so scary at first. But then after I got into the ring, it was like the best feeling ever because I'm like, holy shit, I did that. And like, that was cool. And I want to do this again. And then after that, I just wrestled every month. And like, obviously, the matches when I first started were terrible.
Right.
Like, terrible.
Of
And
course.
I progressed. I pulled out a stone cold stunner my first match, but yeah, it was a progression. I got better as time went on, and I wouldn't be here without my first match, to be honest.
Of course, and I love that. Great story. I ask this question a lot because I feel like each person tells a different story. Uh, when you first stepped into the ring and you took that first bump, what was your mindset? Was it like, oh my God, that hurt? Or was like, yeah, this is where I belong?
So at first I didn't know what to expect because when you're watching wrestling compared to when you're actually doing it, it's totally different. Like when you see all the other wrestlers do the bumps, like it looks like they're like dropping on a marshmallow.
Right.
It's not. It hurts like a bitch. You're going to get bruises. Funny story, when I first started, I bruised like a peach kind of because I'm very white, as you can
Oof.
tell.
Yeah.
So as a girl, especially starting out, you get a lot of bruises and you get a lot of people asking you a lot of questions why you get the bruises. So yeah, it's not your typical thing that you would want to do, but because when you love something, you want to put yourself through it. So I feel like I didn't mind it. I know this sounds weird, but I kind of enjoyed getting the bruises and
Of
stuff because
course.
I knew that it was gonna help me in the end,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So I don't know if that's weird, but I like it.
Oh, the battle scars, like that's
Yeah,
incredible. That's incredible.
yeah.
A lot of people who don't watch wrestling, or I know they ask wrestlers, they go, "Wait, so, like, what?" So I gotta ask, when you told people you were training to become a wrestler, what was like the number one question they had?
They said, "Are your parents okay with that?"
I was
Are
just gonna ask you that. Like, where were your parents go? Where were your parents go?
honestly, like sometimes people don't believe me. Like true story. So if anybody's from Canada, you guys know the Bramley City Center in Brampton. So it was Christmas time and I was shopping, and an old lady. I took off my jacket because it was hot, and I didn't realize that I had a full arm of bruises. And this old lady comes up to me. She's like, "Young lady, it's okay if you get abused. Here's a card." And I'm like, "Ma'am, this is so nice of you, but I don't get abused. I wrestle." And she's like, she didn't believe me. And I had to pull up a picture to show her
Oh
that
God.
I was a wrestler. And she's like, "It's okay, but if you still get abused, you could call me." And I'm like,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
So it's not your typical thing. Like when people ask me, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" I'm a professional wrestler. They step back and they're like, like WWE kind of style? And I'm like, yeah, WWE kind of style. And they'll be like, oh, why? And I'm like, because it's something I want to do.
Right. Yeah, why? Why does it matter to you? I go to a lot of wrestling shows, and the number one question they ask me is like, "Oh, high school wrestling." I'm like, "No,
Yeah.
professional wrestling, like WWE." They go, "Oh, like Monday Night Raw. Are you going to Raw?" I'm like, I'm not going to Raw, bro. It's Saturday. Like I'll go to like an indie show in Connecticut. Like
Yeah.
but it's lit. Trust me, it's really cool. Uh, I love that. Here's a question I want to know is when did you first discover independent wrestling?
So actually, I always grew up as a WWE guy. Like I never like looked at any kind of promotions or anything. Like I felt like I was when I was a kid, I felt like I was cheating on WWE kind of thing. So it never interested me. I guess maybe because I was so invested in the WWE characters. But the first time I stepped foot and saw indie like promotions and stuff was when I first started training. When I
Okay.
helped out at the Impact shows and stuff like that. Like I knew about all the Impact stuff, but I never watched it and got invested in those kind of stuff until I started wrestling.
Which is nothing wrong with that at all. I mean, I discovered independent, same thing as you watching WWE. I'm like, what other wrestling can there
Yeah,
be? Like, what else is there? And now, if you were to tell 12-year-old Justin that in 2006, that in 2021, there's going to be multiple wrestling promotions, there's going to be more than just WWE, I would have been like, yeah, okay,
yeah,
sure, whatever you
yeah.
say. Look at this crazy guy. And now there's so much wrestling. And what I want to know is, are you keeping up with any of the current products?
Honestly, I mostly keep up with WWE when I can. I've mostly just been like watching old stuff to try and like do wrestling study, especially during this quarantine. Since like we can't wrestle, so I try to do as much like promo study and wrestling study as much as possible. Sadly, like I still don't try. Like I try to watch it, but like it's more like for like knowledge instead of like enjoyment kind of thing for me.
Right. Are you an AEW fan? Impact, ROH? If so, who are some of your favorite wrestlers on those promotions?
I don't really keep up with that kind of
Okay.
stuff. I mostly just try to watch like old WWE. But I wouldn't be attached to it. Like I would actually watch it. Like if somebody were to tell me, "Hey, you need to check out this kind of match," like I'll watch it, kind of thing.
Right. Has there been any matches like outside of like any other promotion that like you just go back to and watch all the time?
One of the matches that I recently watched, like it's not all the time, but that kind of caught my eye was the Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa match.
Oh, fire.
Yeah, for like women,
So good.
that was cool. That was a really cool experience to see women like put on the same kind of show as men, kind of thing.
Now I want to know is what were your thoughts on Sasha Banks versus Bianca at WrestleMania Night 1?
Oh, I love that match. Like the storytelling was so good, and just like the way it was put together. Like I know people were complaining about it, saying how like it wasn't built up enough. But the story that they told, like the fact that Sasha Banks kept grabbing her hair,
Yeah.
and then the fact that the ending of the match, Bianca Belair as a face was like, okay, I had enough, and like whipped her with her hair, was gold. Like
Oh, I felt that. I felt that.
yeah,
It's so good. Now, a lot of people say that that was the greatest women's wrestling match of all time. Personally, I don't agree. Like, I love Sasha. I love
yeah,
Bianca. They're two of my favorite wrestlers.
yeah,
But if I had to say the greatest women's wrestling match of all time, I'm going back to 2015 in Brooklyn. Sasha versus Bailey
yeah,
at
yeah,
Brooklyn Over Takeover. The first time, holy shit, that was one of my favorite matches of all time.
yeah,
But I'm not gonna say you're stupid for saying Bianca versus Sasha is the greatest. Who am I to say that? Like that's your opinion. I can't say you're
yeah.
wrong. I can't say it's your opinion. Uh, other than WrestleMania Night 1 in that match, what were your thoughts on WrestleMania overall?
I thought it was an enjoyable thing. Like again, like with everything that's going on, like the fact that they were able to have fans for the first time in so long. So the fact that they still put on a great show, even though with all the circumstances that they had to go through, I thought it was great. I thought all the storytelling was good. Some parts could have like been a little bit better in like night two, but
Right.
it is what it is. Like they work with whatever they can, kind of thing. So I think they worked with what they had at the most. and I guess the fans enjoyed it because they were able to go to a show. So
Yeah, seriously. Now in Canada, I feel so bad because you guys are still in quarantine. How are you keeping positive during this crazy time?
um it's really hard.
Yeah.
I tried to well, if you guys don't know, we've been in quarantine since I believe last November of last year. So for 8 months, if you lived in Toronto and Mississauga and Brampton and all those like small towns near there in the hotspots, we've been locked down like in gray zone, stay at home order for 8 months. No gyms, no, you can't even buy anything in a store. Yeah, it's just essential stuff that you could buy. And for that, it's like it's really hard not being able to go to a gym. So like trying to stay fit as a wrestler with like little to none equipment, you have to go and try and buy all this equipment on Walmart, and you can't even go in the store and buy it. You have to buy it online. So majority of it's like sold out.
Fuck.
So yeah. So basically this whole time I've been trying to like work out, finish school, build my brand as much as possible because like before this my career was kind of like going up a little bit because I main evented with Allison Kay,
Yeah.
Rebel, Casey Spinelli. So it was starting to get like, and I was going to face Alexia Nicole for her title at Crossbody. So my career was going up, and then COVID hit, and it's like, nope. So
Going down.
yeah, so it's like whatever progress you had, like you have to basically build off of that and try to like build my brand. So I've been trying to work on merch, new logos, new gear, try to figure out, okay, what am I going to do when I go back? Because I don't want to be basically set back. I want to try and progress more from when I
Right. I mean, right now is the perfect time to do all that. Like, I feel so bad because like we're okay in America now. Like, I'm fully vaccinated, thank goodness. Things are looking, knock on wood, things are looking pretty good right now. Only time will tell. I'm going to a lot of wrestling shows, and again, I feel so bad saying this. I'm so sorry. Uh,
yeah.
but like, when do you think all this will be over in Canada? I mean, like, do you not know, or like, has
Um,
there been any updates at all?
the thing is that like right now, like we actually had our lowest cases in a while. Like I know like in America there's like way more, but we had like I think 1,500 cases reported today. Um, yeah,
Dang.
1,500 cases in Ontario alone. So, and we're still locked down. And supposedly, we're supposed to be out of lockdown by June 2nd. Our stay at home order is supposed to be done. But a lot of people aren't complying with like the rules. And there's a lot of like lockdown, like protests and stuff. So, like, it really depends on like how many people get vaccinated. That's when we'll try and figure out when we can go back because we can't wrestle at all. Like my last match was March 2020.
Fuck. See, that's the thing. Like when we were in lockdown last year in America, like a lot of people had to stay home. Like we
Yeah,
had to, like, if people were going out, and I'm like, and those people who are going out are complaining because we're in quarantine.
yeah,
Yo, stay the fuck home, bro. Like,
yeah,
just stay home and chill. Yo, get fat, eat food, watch Netflix, do something. That's what I did. I was lazy as fuck last summer. Oh my, I was so lazy. But then finally, like things started to look up now, and things
yeah,
are okay. But like for the people in Canada, stay home. Don't go outside. Just stay home. It's not that I know it sucks, but just stay home.
yeah.
I don't know what else to tell you. During this whole time, are you watching Netflix? If so, what are some of your favorite shows on Netflix or
Um,
any other streaming service?
so I've actually been watching a lot of wrestling to try and get some kind of knowledge and like learning. So like I have my little notebook and I'm like all these matches and writing down, okay, this is the greatest heel. What are their attributes on what I should do? All the baby faces and stuff, and like writing down all little key points in the match. I've also been watching like some Netflix. So like I got into like Orange is the New Black. But
Just now?
yeah,
Amy, you're so late. Oh my god.
it is what
That's
it is. Like I never was interested in watching it as a
right.
kid, like or like younger. Like I don't watch that much Netflix, as you could tell. I'm more like a wrestling kind of person, so I'll just sit down
Fair
for
enough.
hours and watch wrestling. But when it comes to a show or a movie, I can't sit and watch it. I don't know why. But I feel like I have ADHD when it comes to movies and TV shows, unless there's stuff blowing up. If there's stuff blowing up, I'm intrigued. But unless, unless like Stranger Things is really good. Like I love Stranger Things and on Netflix. Those
You
are
is fire. That's fire. I think I heard they're getting picked up for season 3. I heard it's supposed to come out soon. So fingers crossed. But what are your thoughts on Orange is the New Black? Like, do you like it? Are you
I
in?
think it's really funny. Like I like Crazy, I think Crazy Eyes
Crazy Eyes.
and Tasty. I love Tasty. She's hilarious.
Oh God, you're only in season 1.
No, so I'm on season 5. So I've been watching it with my brother. Yeah.
I thought you were like a season 1. I thought you like just started it today. I'm like, oh my God,
No,
you got so much to catch up on.
no.
Definitely let me know when you are done though,
Yeah.
because I love it. I think it's incredible. Great
Yeah.
show. I stopped watching it after a certain point in the show. I'm not gonna say it because of spoiler alerts for those who are
Yeah, I
listening and
think I
watching.
have a
And
feeling. I
just
know.
because I don't know if you got to, I forgot what season it was, but I don't want to say anything.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, we'll talk about it after. But Amy, this has been so much fun talking to you, though. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's actually a great opportunity to do a podcast during this time. Like, not being able to wrestle just sucks, and being able to do a wrestling podcast is awesome.
Of course, and I feel like for the people who are still in lockdown and trying to get their name out there, now's the perfect time. And for you guys, for you wrestlers to be available, is perfect timing as
Yeah.
well. But no, but Amy, like seriously, thank you so much again. Uh, One last time though, drop those plugs. Where can the nerds find you?
So for my Instagram, if you guys want to follow me, it's Amy Crimson XOXO. For TikTok and Twitter, it's Amy Crimson XOXO. For my YouTube, all you have to do is search up Amy Crimson Wrestling, and majority of my matches should pop up. And if you guys want to follow me on Facebook, it's just Amy Crimson, and it's easy to find.
There you go. Nerds, this has been an episode of What's Up Wrestler, a podcast by Nerds of Wrestling. I am your host, Justin Del Rio. Peace.